Hey, it's John. Welcome back to the show, and welcome to my 10 favorite songs for 2001. This is a show that I put out as a companion or an accompaniment to my appearance on Grant's Rock Warehouse, where a panel of us, now nine strong, talk about our 10 favorite songs from a particular year, and we go chronologically. So I go into this show with my 10 favorite songs day. I go more depth into my picks. I give you 20 honorable mentions because I can't really go deep into my picks on Grant's show anymore, or shows will be 3 hours long. So, 2001, getting deeper into jazz music, not buying too much new music except the artists that I already loved a lot, or artists that I knew about back in the 70s or 80s or 90s, and I was just discovering them at that point. My honorable mentions, a lot of these are going to be songs that I really loved that were on the radio, but I never bought the albums. But I went back and listened to these songs and I still dig them. That's most of the songs, not all of them. So, without further ado, here's my top 10 for 2001. So here's a band from Canada I've talked about a few times, and no, it's not Rush. That'll be in 2002. It's Cowboy Junkies, and this is from their album Open. And the song I'm going with is Upon Still Waters. Now, what I'm holding up is Notes Falling Slow. This is the collection that the band put out in 2015. It's a 4 CD box set, and it contains remastered versions of the albums Open, One Soul Now, and At the End of Pat's Taken, respectively. The fourth disc in this collection is Notes Falling Slow, which is a newly recorded disc of songs that weren't on the previous three albums. They were working on these songs, but they didn't make the cut for those albums. So, Upon Still Waters is my selection. Now, the Open album continued that dreamy sound, neo country sound that Cowboy Junkies always had, but here the guitars are louder. There's a lot more space in the arrangements, and I think it works very well. It's a very emotional record. Upon Still Waters, you hear Margot's voice sound amazing as always, and Michael Timmons's guitars sound great on here. This is a tighter song than a lot of ones on here. This is only 3:23, but the vibe on this song matches much of this album. The first half of the album in particular is very atmospheric and emotional and moody. It gets a little more poppy on the second disc, but it's still great. So my number 10 is Upon Still Waters by Cowboy Junkies. Now, words to the wise, if you do not own this collection, it's a little hard to find these days. I strongly suggest that you take the CDs and put them in some jewel cases, because the way they designed this, they had it so you put the CDs here and here, and then right behind this book, you put them here and here, and the packaging's flimsy. What's going to happen is the CDs are going to fall out and you're going to get scratches on them, like my Open disc has now, although it still plays perfectly. So that's just something to keep your eye out for. At number 9, it's a band I knew about back in 2001. I wasn't listening to a lot of hard rock and metal back then, but I knew this band. I knew they were huge. And it was only the last year and a half I really took a deeper dive into this 2000s metal, with some exceptions, and one I'm going to talk about next. This is System of a Down from their album Toxicity, which I always have a hard time pronouncing. And I'm going with probably their most famous song, Chop Suey, which is very heavy, yet has this great ebb and flow to it, has all these great hooks to it, and is super, super infectious. This was a song I knew back in the day. I didn't know who it was by, but I remember when I was listening to a lot more Sirius XM Turbo in 2024 and revisiting these songs and being like, oh, yeah, I remember this. But now I understand why it's such a popular song. It is fantastic. This album's pretty strong. In fact, this is the only album I have by System of a Down. I'm definitely going to dig deeper. I know they only have 5 and they haven't put out an album in like 20 years or so. And I know they only tour once in a great while. When they tour, tens of thousands of people see them. But great album. But my number 9, Chop Suey by System of a Down. Number 8. Okay, now this band I got into in 2003. Thank you, Anne Marie, for getting me into them. And I'm going to take this packaging off because it doesn't come up good on the screen because I already tried. This is Tool. This is from their album Lateralis. And the song I'm going with is Schism. Now, this would have been the album that was new when I got into the band. Although the first one I heard was Anima. Now, Schism is a song you still hear on Turbo, Sirius XM, Channel 41. It has this very slow beginning before it goes into that repetitive bass line. And that lyric, they always say, I know the pieces fit throughout the song, but it's got a lot of drama, a lot of space between the notes, very catchy, very hard-hitting bridge on here. Very, very cool track. It's under 7 minutes, but there's enough going on in the arrangements that it's always keeps you interested. That's the one thing about Tool, I think. Yeah, they have very long songs, but something about them keeps you drawn in and makes you pay attention. They are more of a progressive metal band, but they just have a lot going with them, with the musicality and the great songs that they have. So my number 8 is Schism by Tool. My number 7 is a band that I love quite a bit, seen them many times live, seen their leader many times in the Allman Brothers Band and on his own as well. And this is Government Mule. The studio version is from The Deep End Volume 1. The song I'm going with is Skull Mule. Now I'm holding this up. This is Deepest End live in concert. This was the live concert that was a tribute to their fallen bass player, Alan Woody. This album we talked about here on the live cut, Byron Bolt and I, BM Bolt. So I'll put a link to that in the description. This is a wonderful double live album. I don't have a studio copy of this. Well, I have one, but I don't have an original one. I have a burn one I got from eMusic. Skull Mule is a wonderful, funky, jazzy instrumental that the band still do live nearly every time. And it's very, very memorable, very catchy. The rhythm section is really busy on it, but it just brings you in. It has this 70s Herbie Hancock Headhunters feel to it. That's what I think really brought me into this song. And I've known this song since it came out. It is wonderful. Government Mule have a wonderfully musically rich catalog, and Skull Mule is a killer. And that is my number 7, Government Mule with Skull Mule. Number 6, an artist I've talked about extensively here on John the Music Nuts and Grant's Rock Warehouse, and will continue to do so through at least 2006. This is Chris Whitley from his album Rocket House, going with the song Say Goodbye. This was released on ATO Records. I think that Dave Matthews might have had something to do with this album as far as the recording or production. Dave Matthews was a huge Chris Whitley fan. Say Goodbye has a similar kind of sound that Dave Matthews was doing with his band or his solo albums at that time. More about the songs than it was about the musical interplay. This album has a lot of different things going on. Chris was trying electronic stuff and drum loops and all kinds of things. Say Goodbye is a song that was made for radio, but it's so catchy and it's just a wonderfully written and crafted song. Wonderful chorus on it. The recording is excellent on here. This is an album that I have near the bottom of my albums by Chris Whitley, but it's an album I'd still give like an 8 or 8.5. It's just that's how much I adore his catalog. Say Goodbye at another time would have been a huge hit single. But instead, it's just this wonderful song that not enough people know about. And that is my number 6 for 2001, Chris Whitley, Say Goodbye. Number 5, it's a band I've talked about song and verse and will continue to do so. This is from an album that is not a favorite among their fans and not among my favorite albums by this band either. But there's one knockout track on here that's so addictive, and I dedicate this selection to my friend Virginia Calderon because she loves King's X more than me. And this is her favorite song by King's X. It's from Manic Moonlight. And this song is Vegetable. This is probably the funkiest, most danceable song that King's X ever did. It's just that same repetitive groove and that great soulful lead vocal from Doug. Very little harmonizing on here. The guitars on here from Ty are very, very funky. Perfect. They're all in their right place. But what a groove on here. And this groove, it's a 6-minute track. It can go on for 16 minutes and it wouldn't even get repetitive. It wouldn't stagnate at all. It just stayed. It's just a groove that could last forever. And it's very, very catchy. Wonderful track by King's X. And King's X have a ton of them. Again, not one of my favorite albums. Very experimental album, but I don't think a lot of the experiments worked. But they hit it out of the park on Vegetable. And that's my number 5 for 2001. My number 4 is another singer-songwriter I've talked about extensively. And will continue to do so, particularly in the 2000s, because he put out a ton of great albums in the 2000s. This is John Hiatt from The Tiki Bar is Open. The song I'm going with is All the Lilacs in Ohio, which I have on a mix CD by John Hiatt. Whenever I travel in Ohio, and I try to get there once a year, I make sure this song's always playing when I'm driving through there. Excellent song on here. It's very, very catchy, very mid-paced. Great rhythm on here. It's something that just sticks right in your head. He put this album quite fast after the Crossing Muddy Waters album, which had more of a somber feel to it. This album is definitely a little more upbeat, although it does have those great tearjerker ballads on here as well. All the Lilacs in Ohio, I think, is a wonderful track. This is my number 4 for 2001, All the Lilacs in Ohio by John Hiatt. And number 3 is another band I've gotten a little deeper into, probably more the last 10, 15 years or so. This is Incubus from their album Morning View. And this is a song that I'd like to dedicate to a lot of people in my life who've passed on. I still remember you fondly. So many great times. The song is Wish You Were Here. It's very whimsical and dreamlike in its verses. The chorus is just, I wish you were here, but it's sung with a lot of emotion and passion. It's a very, very cool track. I just love the vibe on here. It does. Admittedly, it brings a tear to my eye sometimes when I think about some people who passed on. But this was a big radio hit, rock radio hit for them, alternative radio hit for Incubus. Wonderful album too, Morning View. This is my number 3, Wish You Were Here by Incubus. Okay, my number 2 is a band who has a interesting reputation. You either love them or you hate them, but I'll tell you what, this album is very good, and I like this album quite a bit. Now, after this, I didn't like, they kind of got lame for me. But Nickelback's Silver Side Up, I can understand why this was huge. This is a very good album. The song I'm going with was the uber hit that was How You Remind Me. This is a number one hit. It might be their only number one. I know they've had a ton of hits. This song kicks ass. I've loved this from the get-go. I still listen to this. I still get that same feeling. It is just well written, very anthemic. And I think this is a fantastic song. This is by far my favorite song by Nickelback. And I like a few songs on here. Like I like Never Again and Too Bad and Hollywood. There's some really good stuff. How You Remind Me, that just blew the doors off for me, except for one other song, which I'm going to talk about shortly. So yeah, Nickelback, How You Remind Me is my number two. And my number one is an artist I got into maybe the last 10 years. Knew his music, knew his work with Mata Hoople more. 10 years ago, my friend Jack Guastamacchia, rest in peace, wish you were here, got me into Ian Hunter. And he introduced me to the Ran album, which would be my favorite album for 2001. And the song I'm going with is Rip Off, a song that I played all the time at Dugan's Pub on their Touch Tunes jukebox. Introduced a lot of great people to this song, including Charlie Dugan. Rip Off is one of the great rock and roll songs from the 2000s. This whole album is what's great about Ian Hunter. Kick-ass rockers. He was 62 when he put this out, ladies and gentlemen. And he was still rocking hard in 90% of the people out there, but doing it with a ton of craftsmanship. Rip Off is so memorable, wonderful verses, and of course, great bridge. Johnny loves his bridges. Rip Off is fantastic. This whole album, I love. The ballads on here, like no one is a tearjerker, but I love other great songs on here, like Death of a Nation and American Spy, Purgatory, Dead Man Walking. Great album. My number one song is Rip Off by Ian Hunter. If you don't own this album, do yourself a favor and check it out. It is wicked. As is nearly everything he's done in the last 25 years. He's 87 years old and still making great music. He can't tour anymore because he has tinnitus. But, check out those Defiance albums, part 1 and part 2. They're wonderful also. Those are like 9 albums to me. Maybe 9.5. So anyway, let's go over my 10 favorites again. My number 10 is Pond Still Waters by Cowboy Junkies. My number 9 is Chop Suey by System of a Down. My number 8 is Schism by Tool. My number 7, Skull Mule by Government Mule. This is the live version, folks. This is not the studio version. My number 6 is Say Goodbye by the late, great Chris Whitley. My number 5 is Vegetable by King's X. My number 4 is by the man whose songwriting keeps on giving, John Hyatt, with All the Lilacs in Ohio. My number 3 is Incubus with Wish You Were Here. My number 2 is How You Remind Me by Nickelback. And my number 1, and it's a fucking 10, even if Mick Ralphs or the incomparable Nick Esquire did not play on it, is Rip Off by Ian Hunter. So, let me give you my honorables. As is my wont, I go into my This is close ones. This is close. Love the Black Crowes. A lot of people don't like the Lions album. I like it. My least favorite, still like it. Come On is kick ass. That's one of their hardest rocking tunes. This is Black Crowes goes Led Zeppelin on here, like with the riffs in here, like an Out on the Tiles type riff. Kicks ass. This is close. Remember Oysterhead? Grand Peckin Order. This was Les Claypool from Primus, Trey Anastasio from Fish, Stuart Copeland from The Police. Rubberneck Lions. What a groove. What a jam on here. Kicks ass. This album's pretty good. This is close. Check out my music corner when John Clauser and I did a weekly series on the Wasp catalog. From Unholy Terror, Hate to Love Me. This I thought was a comeback for Wasp. This is a top 5 Wasp album for me. So, let me go to Notepad, read off the others for you. Okay, here we go. Jimmy Eat World with The Middle. That was a top 5 hit. Catchy as fuck. I love that song. Another catchy song. And I know there was another big hit off this album by Weezer. I'm going with Island in the Sun. You still hear this on Lithium, Sirius XM Channel 34. You still hear this on Rock 107. Kick-ass song. Spoon. Spoon's a band I'm going to talk about more in the future. I didn't get into them until 05. Fitted Shirt. I think it's from Girls Could Tell. This is a great track. John Mayer. I like his music. I have one album. I'm about to have 2, actually. No Such Thing. I think that was his first big hit. More of an adult contemporary song. Very cool tune. Puddle of Mud. Blurry. This was a song that I always knew of it until recently, and I figured out who it was. It is a kick-ass song. There's another song, new metal band from the 2000s. I saw them live last year. POD with the song Alive. Excellent track. Okay, this is a song that crossed over to a lot of different radio genres because it was highly accessible. Train with Drops of Jupiter. Very cool tune. Saxon, a heavy metal band, and I've loved on and off for over 40 years. I love the title track to the Killing Ground album. That kicks ass. Lucinda Williams, Steal Your Love. It's from the album Essence. I know this album because I received a mix CD from their record label whose name escapes me right now, but that was the first Lucinda Williams song I heard, and I remember that Ryan Adams was on it too, but Steal Your Love kicks ass. Jeff Beck from You Had It Coming, which is a nearly all instrumental album. It is a wicked album. Loose Cannon kills. Pop songs. Jewel. This is when I think she tried to go away from that folky sound she was doing. But this song is wonderful. Standing Still. I think that is pop perfection. Alien Ant Farm. The song they'll always be known for. Their cover of Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal, which I've always loved. Bob Dylan from Love and Theft. The opening track, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. What a groove on that. Great song. Megadeth. This song they still do live. Dread and A Fugitive Mind. Really cool track. Loudon Wainwright III. My friend Jack Guastamacchia, rest in peace, got me into his music as well. Last Man on Earth, which is the title track from that album. Judas Priest from the album Demolition, which is my least favorite album by Judas Priest because it was a little too new metal. It didn't really sound much like Priest, but Subterfuge Destroys. I love that track. Last but not least, another artist that Jack introduced me to, Alejandro Escovedo, and the song Castanets. This is killer. I just picked up Big Station recently. That's a great album too. So thank you so much for joining me today. What are your favorites from 2001? Do you like any of the songs that I've talked about? How many of these songs have you actually heard? Please let me know in the comments what you think of the music from 2001. Thank you so much for joining me today. Do what you love. We'll talk to you soon.